And welcome to another episode of DioTalk. I'm Dio. Let's talk. My guests today are the founder of Silent Warriors Podcast. Give a warm welcome to DesiGirl and L4dyDMC. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you for having us. I'm super excited.
I'm excited.
Hello.
Hi, how are you guys? Well, first of all, thank you for joining me. I understand this is the first time you guys have been doing like videos on a podcast before. So I'm super honored. I hope I can make this a great experience for you guys. I'm just nervous as you guys. So let's just try to jump into it. All right. So how did you guys? What inspired you guys to create this awesome podcast, the Silent Warrior Chronicles Podcast?
Well, it was actually something that came to both of our minds, especially during the pandemic. Both DesiGirl and myself had been silent warriors for a while. Personally, I suffer from anxiety and major depressive disorder. And when we got into the pandemic, it just got me thinking, how many more people are starting their mental health journey at this time? Or how many people's mental health is actually being aggravated with this unprecedented situation, And as a warrior, I don't have that clinical professional experience. I just have the patient perspective, the straight warrior perspective. So I just asked myself, who can I partner with who would be willing to go on this crazy journey and do something informative and special for other warriors out there? And I reached out to DesiGirl, and fortunately, my BFF here said, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So what is your experience, DesiGirl?
So I am a clinical social worker. I work in a psychiatric hospital. And in the midst of the pandemic, L4dyDMC had messaged me. We were playing like a fun game, like how many S's there are in a sentence. And I guess I guessed it right. And she's like, hey, girl, like, I know you work in mental health. Like, this is kind of my vision. And, I was working 10 to 12 hours per shift. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I could do that. Like, and I was like, okay, we'll give it a try. So we started with a blog because I was like, I don't think I could do a podcast. And we started with the blog, and it was once a week. And I promised myself, okay, we're just going to do this once a week. Like, we'll have an Instagram. And I would say that lasted 2 weeks. And then I was like, oh, let's do another segment on the blog. And now it's turned into a 7-day segment because we have Monday through Friday blog posts. And then Tuesdays is our podcast. And then Saturday, Sundays is more Instagram. So yeah, it just turned into a whole thing where we chat about mental health and kind of what L4dyDMC said. As a clinician, we oftentimes don't get the patient side of things. Like, I can sit here and tell you everything that the DSM tells you, but someone like L4dyDMC could be like, well, you mean this? And I'm like, And then they were like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. So I can't explain in layman's terms. I kind of tell her it's like being part of another world, like Ariel. Like, we live in two different worlds. I live in the ocean and she lives up above the ocean.
Well, I gotta say I'm very happy. You guys are really doing an awesome job. I've heard a couple of episodes, and it's amazing because you guys are actually doing something to help people with mental health. You're actually addressing issues, in different how do I say it, in different forms and different topics. And that's more than some doctors or therapists can actually do. Like I mentioned before we started, I was listening to the Jonina Jolie episode, which was fascinating. Breaking down individuals that have these sometimes multi-personality disorders. I mean, as an actor, you pick and choose so many roles that sometimes you get to lose yourself in one and not know what's fantasy and what's reality.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We were chatting earlier before we went on air, and that's just my diagnosis based on the information that I know that L4dyDMC has presented me with. But Angelina Jolie, if you're listening to this, like, hit us up. We'd love to chat with you. Help you with your mental journey.
Yeah, no, I think it's amazing. Like I said on the episode, it's amazing how something like that can just propel, along with the talent that she has. She's just I say no wonder she's an A-lister. She's fantastic. But to see how that could be her saving grace, her freedom, and it could be her relief. She said it herself in a lot of interviews, like how acting has pretty much saved her along with being a mother. So I just find that very fascinating as well. And I'm very happy to have been part of those movies. Yeah, to have seen them. So
that's awesome. So you guys started this in the pandemic, right? So like, what challenge? What some of the challenges you guys like went through this crazy non-managing pandemic that we went through?
In terms of SWC, I think one of the biggest challenges, which I think all of us dealt with, was distance. We had to learn to kind of work together, but not being together, having technology work in our favor, having times that we could meet work in our favor, especially learning all the platforms such as Zoom and such as Anchor and Riverside and all these things. I think that was probably one of the biggest things. Having sound issues at the beginning because we couldn't be together to record, but we managed to, in the midst of our anxiety, make it work. Yeah,
that's all that matters. It's fascinating that you guys have able to build this network, this awesome podcast, with one another, because a lot of people, they tend to start it and they tend to start working with somebody else, and it just falls through just by itself. So that's passion and dedication. That's admirable on you guys.
Oh, definitely. I mean, fun fact is we recorded half of season 1 6 times.
Really?
Yeah, we had to record those episodes more than we would like to say, just again because of the sound issues. And we're like, okay, so we have to record this when it sounded great the third time. Now we have to record it a sixth time. It was interesting.
How was that? Did you guys had to listen to it and write ping points down on certain topics and then do it all over again?
We tried to make it as organic as possible. Correct me if I'm wrong, DesiGirl. We tried to remember a little bit of what we said, but it never comes out the same when you re-record. So we just tried to go with our banter. We just tried to make it work as much as possible.
What's been the go ahead, DesiGirl.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, those that know Lady DMC and they're like, you guys sound so bored, or like you're just not enthusiastic. I'm like, dude, like the first time we were like yelling at each other and arguing, and I was like, the sixth time we're like, okay, just get through it. Like, let's get through this 45 minutes and just release it. I'm done.
But now that you listen, I like I said, I listened to a couple of episodes and just I don't know if it's the editing, but it sounds so like you guys have the music at the band in the background, and everything's like very nonchalant. It's very like I can literally do anything. I could fold clothes, wash dishes, or edit one of my episodes, and just I lose myself in the topic. That's not helpful for me as a male when I've listened a couple of your episodes. So I think you guys are doing great. I think you guys are doing awesome. I really mean that.
Thank you so much. I think what DesiGirl and I learned just through recording so many times, both of us, I don't think you'd done another podcast, right, DesiGirl?
I have not.
Yeah, so I think it was a learning process that we went through as business partners, as besties. And I think we just learned, what, the best script is no script. So just make it organic, roll with it, and let the banter. How you hear us on the podcast from probably half of season 1 to now is that's just us drinking a Starbucks or chatting at the park. That's just
that is how
sound.
That's how it should be, honestly, because you first of all you create this, let's say, a whole episode, and you script part by part, and then you have a guest on the show that makes them tense and nervous, like, oh man, what if I mess this question up? Oh man, like would I respond the wrong way? And I think one thing that us as human has have lost throughout the years is that sense of connection with one another. And just having a conversation, a deep, meaningful conversation.
And the beautiful thing is, once we learned that we didn't need to have questions ahead of time, DesiGirl and I just learned that, hey, whatever she says, we'll just bring a question to my mind and I'll ask it, and vice versa. And that's how our conversation keeps flowing. That's the rudder that keeps us propelling during the episode. So it just works.
Well, it's working. It's awesome. So what it has been, and because you're on season 2, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
What's like in your guys' opinion, which has been like the most difficult topic to discuss? Like it really hits home.
So just season 2 or season 1 included?
Well, in general.
For me, it's been the PTSD episode, because that was an episode that was not supposed to ever happen. It was about, my sexual assault, and I didn't want to tell anybody. I was ashamed. And as Lady DMC mentioned, we are best friends, and she said, "Look, let's just try it. If I can't do it, we'll just vaccinate the episode." And you'll hear in the middle of the episode, she actually stops the episode and says, "Are you okay? Like, do you want me to stop the episode? Like, we can stop right now." And that's genuine. That was not planned at all. Like, I broke down crying. And I think that kind of was like a turning point for me and my healing in that regard. But it was a really difficult episode because I was like, oh my gosh, the whole world is going to hear this now, and everyone's going to know. And what are they going to think of me? So for me, it was really hard to not only record it, but then having the whole world listening to it.
Wow.
I think that would have to be the hardest one for me as well, because just to see my friend have to talk about such a difficult topic. I think we've really learned to change those hats. Like, we know how to be Lady DMC, the business partner, but I also know how to be Lady DMC, the best friend. So to see her talk about something that caused so much distress, that's why I stopped the episode and I said it's probably not even worth it. It's my friend's situation. It's her mental health first. So I didn't like seeing her like that. So as a friend, that was probably the most difficult for me.
Oh, you're very courageous, and thank you for sharing that, because it's almost like therapeutic finally be able to talk about it, and you don't know how many people you can actually help. And then just find somebody like you found your best friend and talk about it, because that's all sometimes we need. Like I grew up in a very difficult environment in my upbringing. It wasn't, thank God that, it didn't happen. The same thing happened to you, right? But I grew up where, there was a lot of violence, right? So I have a couple of skeletons in my closet, and a lot of PS3, whatever you call that.
PTSD.
And, yeah. And not my upbringing. And, sometimes, I sit down with my wife and, she says something or something triggers my memory, and I just sit down in a corner and quiet. And, throughout the years, I have found ways and to talk about it with her. It hasn't been easy, because you're reliving that horrible moments, or like me, those horrible moments that I had to choose to survive. So, I commend you, and I respect you and thank you.
No, I mean, definitely that. And that's one of the reasons why Lady DMC was like, let's just try the episode, because again, it's a story that both men and women deal with. And, as a society, we're told to keep it quiet, especially with the Me Too Act or Me Too movement and everything. And just people saying, oh no, well, why are you coming back 20 years later to say that this happened to you? I wasn't ready to talk about it. And she just said, like, let's just try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I literally was living through it when I was doing that episode. I was there when it happened. Like, and that's what I think was hard for me. Kind of what you're saying, those triggers, the flashback. I could hear like the banging, I could hear my name being called. I can, I felt like I was there when that episode happened. And that was, for me, both therapeutic, but also triggering because, again, I put myself right back where I didn't want to be anymore.
Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, but you faced it, that's the most important part. You can face it and you can overcome it. Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
So like what feedback have you guys received? Because it has to be positive. Like you guys understand you're doing something special here, right? You're changing people's life. You're touching their heart. You're making you're making it matter. Just by making one episode at a time and talk about different topics that has to do with mental health. You know that, right?
We really appreciate that. I mean, I think DesiGirl would agree with me here that we've received mostly good feedback. I mean, there's been some that you kind of have to just dismiss kind of like everything. But I think what we mostly get is what we said before, just the banter, just the conversation. People like that. People like that you can just grab a tea, grab a coffee, listen to it on your drive home. And it just feels, we've gotten the feedback that it feels like hanging out with some girlfriends and just chatting it up.
Yeah,
so I think that's the flow we're going for.
You're always gonna have people give their negative feedbacks, but that's on them. Some people hear things like that and just they can't sometimes accept reality. That not everything is pink, and not everything is okay and good. So like, bad publicity is not. It's good publicity because you got people talking. So it's good. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, so if Lady DMC, if I may, so she actually got more of the hate than I did because
Why?
because I was a professional in the field and I know what I was talking about, and how dare she talk about PTSD or depression. And they were displacing their anger. I remember we had an episode, not an episode, it was a blog post about mental health and corrections. And she just got ripped up for it because people are like, well, how dare you talk about that? Like, you don't know what you're talking about. And I work in the prison section. And it was really hard. Like that was a breaking point for us where we were like, should we even continue? Because the hate she was getting was ridiculous. Like she was getting threatened. And like, movie stars get threatened all the time. And like, we're just like ordinary people here. And I'm like, what in the world? Like you have so much time on your hands to threaten this poor girl. Like, what did she do to you?
Well, that's very cynical on those behalf of those people, because at the end of the day, like everyone has different views, right? Everybody has an opinion. So she's telling her point of view. That doesn't necessarily mean she's right. She's only explaining what she's seen and what she's gone through. Like you have yours. Like you can be a medical professional, right? But you guys speak on facts, and that's it. But then when you're on a civilian side, a human side, there's so many factors that goes into a reaction that sometimes a person gives, right?
And,
so yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, what I think people don't understand is the fact that I may not know the DSM because I don't claim to be a professional. But I think the importance of having a warrior's perspective is the fact that, like, for example, DesiGirl, she can recite it forwards and backwards, right? But and she's a warrior too, she has that added perspective, which is good. But like, for example, maybe someone else who's in the field, who's a clinician who perhaps hasn't lived it, they know the symptoms, they know how to treat these types of disorders, but they haven't felt what it actually feels like. They haven't felt those symptoms in person. And that's the perspective that I try to bring. So like, yes, this is what you read about in anxiety, but this is how it actually presents itself. It's the shakes, it's going pale, it's going cold, it's the insomnia, the lack of appetite, or the overeating. And I've actually lived all that. So
yes.
That's what I'm trying to tell people. Like, I'm here. I actually know what the DSM is talking about, not because I read it, because
You're living it.
I'm living
Yeah.
proof.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, like, even like I have anxiety and PTSD, but I also know what the DSM says. I also know what therapy modalities to use. So I'm sitting here, and I mean, Lady DMC can vouch for this. Like, I'm okay. So let's do some grounding exercises. Let's do some deep breathing. Like, what's triggering me? Like, I literally therapy is myself, and I don't ever. It's a curse. I'll admit it's a curse to have know the DSM. But I envy her sometimes. I'm like, I wish I could just sit there and be like, I'm anxious. Help me. Like, tell me what to do, because I'm sitting there and she's helping. She's like, let's do this. I'm like, nope, that's the wrong treatment to do. Like, you gotta do this because this is gonna cause this. So even though I'm a warrior, it's like me knowing the treatment. So I'm literally treating myself all the time, which is a bad thing. Please don't do it. But at the same time, she has that place where she doesn't know what the DSM is. So she's able to give you that raw experience, that raw information that I cannot give you because, again, I know the other aspect
basically
of it.
be honest and tell you what's working, what's not working.
Yeah.
So you really got the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think we balance each other out beautifully. And I say this on my episodes too. The biggest benefit is I have a business partner, a best friend, and a therapist all in one. I like to be a little sponge around her. Like, she calls me her little clinician in training because everything that she says, I'm like, oh my God, that's so fascinating. Tell me more. I want to learn this.
Oh, you guys are so cute.
She is a clinician in training. My goal is by the end of season 2 for her to be a clinician.
But that's like the best relationship ever because you're learning from one another. You guys love each other, and you're having fun embarking together in this journey.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if it was a job, you guys it wouldn't feel like a job because you guys are having so much fun. And that's the most important part. If one thing I've learned throughout this pandemic, I'm not sure if we're in or out or whatever, but it's one thing I've learned is like find something that you do that you love that makes you happy, right? The second thing is you have to realize the people of your surroundings. This pandemic has pushed boundaries and forced people to accept their reality, meaning if you marry somebody or you're in a relationship with somebody, you realize, fuck, this is not the person for me, or fuck, I'm in love with this person. Thank God I'm stuck here with her. Then something's wrong. And you guys, like, it's beautiful. You guys give me chills. I love this. I love this.
And you reminded me of something that my cousin told me when I was younger, choosing what I was going to study back in college. She told me, you know what, Lady DMC? Do something that you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Yes.
And I found that with my homegirl right here. I could be having the most miserable week, the most miserable Thursday. And then I remember, oh yes, we're recording today. I'm like, yes. Is it 8 or 9 o'clock? Yeah, I want to talk to my homegirl.
Yes.
I want to record. I want to chat.
Yes. Oh man, you guys give me chill. Like I used to work in this corporation, that blah blah blah, that world, and I left it. I became a small business owner. I think matter than less than a year. And my son is autistic, right? So my life, it's hectic, but I think I'm having more fun. I love my life more, besides, because as a business owner, you guys, it's a struggle to get it, off the ground and to get it out there. And I think I'm more happier now that I'm spending time with my wife and spending time with my son, and I'm doing the work rather than sitting in an office for, I started my day at 6 o'clock in the morning, came back home at 8 or 10 o'clock at night, and it sucked. So I totally get where you guys coming from. It's amazing.
Yeah, I totally get it. Because again, going back to the pandemic, mental health treatment changed a lot. And I remember just one day being in the parking lot, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I cannot be running a machine anymore. I can't be dealing with these crises after crisis, and just expecting to just go home and be okay and then do it again the next day. And it got a lot. And I
Out.
see that the world is going to change. There's one pandemic is ending, but I think a mental pandemic is in the horizon with this COVID situation.
Yes. I like when I first embarked on my journey of this podcast, I always try to inspire people like this is a time and where you need to invest and start your own business, whatever, be self-sufficient, right?
Mm-hmm.
As time, has evolved and we're getting, to a closer norm and things are continue to open. Like I'm asking myself, are we ready? Are we really ready to go back to some norm? And I don't think we're fully ready. We've been out for a year and some change. Certain people have hustled and created something, but majority of a lot of them have just sat and had that long vacation they needed for years. So are like in your guys, because I know you guys over there in California and LA, like in your opinion, do you think we're ready?
I don't think we're ready. I think with all that's changed, having to go virtual on so many things for so long, it's going to be hard to, get that socializing aspect back. I think people are going to be concerned for a while, regardless if the CDC and health officials tell us, it's safe to go out without masks. I mean, look, we thought that it was dying down now. And look, this whole Delta variant came and started rocking our world again, like over here in LA County, they're already saying you have to wear masks again. I just think so many things have changed that I don't even know if we're ready for the new normal.
Yes. What about you, DesiGirl?
Honestly, I don't think we're ready. Like you mentioned earlier, we don't know if COVID is even over yet. It just seems like we're getting, in my sense, a misinformation. Like today, it's we only had 1,000 cases, and tomorrow it's like there's 6,000 cases now. And in this year that we've been home, those of us that had the opportunity to be home now don't know how to work in an office because they found like this is more efficient for me. I know Lady DMC, you work in the office setting, so you had that experience of being able to work from home and still be able to fulfill your duties essentially. Whereas for me, I wasn't able to telework, but I'm burnt from the pandemic.
No, I can imagine. Yeah.
I'm tired, and the thought of going back, like to the point where like I dislike what I got into. And Lady DMC and I started SWC, and that kind of brought that spark back with mental health. But I also realized that there's so much misinformation out there when it comes to mental health. I mean, there was an increase in alcohol sales by like, I think it was like 300%, to the point where like Costco now sells alcohol to the highest price they've ever sold it because of the demand.
Wait, I gotta stop. If if there's Hispanic buying beer, there's a party. So you gotta take that demographic out. We like to party, so we'll make a party. Listen, and growing up in Puerto Rico, and I know in Florida, if there's a hurricane, there's a party. So you gotta discount that. But yes.
But like there's a lot of people who have complained. I was just watching a documentary, like these people are like, oh yeah, I just took a shot of tequila, went to my meeting at 2, then I had another shot. Like they were drunk throughout their whole workday. Like when do you get to have that opportunity without getting in trouble?
Yeah.
And some people dealt with isolation. Some people found out that they were in a bad marriage, or they can't live isolated. So no, I don't think we're ready. And I think mental health and medical need to be taken care of. And I think we need to figure out a game plan. I don't think there's a game plan, really, honestly. Mm-hmm. Here in California, there's no game plan, at least.
Yeah. There's a lot of people from California moving to Texas.
Yeah.
That's like the worst. There's a lot of guns over there. There's a lot of, you don't want to be in Texas. You don't want to go crazy in Texas.
By the way, I love that we're talking to a fellow Latino. As a Latina myself. Yes.
There we go. So
Yeah, a lot of people moved out. A lot
yeah,
of people I mean, there in California, I've seen some very fascinating people. I'm gonna use the word fascinating. They're irrational about this COVID, like it's a hoax, and I think it's interesting. I like listening to people's explanation. I'm like, you might have schizophrenia or psychosis, but okay, now we know. Now we know what's going on with you.
I mean, there's some people that have, you radical explanations, but some people have good
Mhm.
points. Like sometimes I think common sense, we as people lack it. I
Oh yeah.
think the answer's right there in front of us sometimes, and there's so much going on,
Mhm.
so much that we tend to forget that the most simplest thing is the simple answer. We can't see it.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Right.
I wanted to ask you guys, right? You guys doing this mental health stuff, like what do you think is the like number why in 2021 there's so many, putting the pandemic aside, right? Just overall in general, like in your guys' opinion, why do you think that there's so much mental health going on?
I think mental's always been there. I just think the culture back then was very different. It was very hush hush. You don't talk about it, or you're going to be labeled crazy.
Yes.
And as society has evolved, how the culture has evolved, mental health now has become kind of the cool thing. I remember patients telling me that, oh, it's cool to have anxiety now. It's cool to have depression. It's like a badge of honor now.
Oh,
When way back when it was a scarlet letter. So for me, I think it's normalizing mental health, but I also think mental health still has a lot of stigma to it. I think people have made up rules, made up descriptions of diagnoses. And so, though mental health is acceptable, I don't think it's fully accepted. In a few episodes, we've talked about this where employers are like, oh, you're having a bad day. Yeah. So, can you come in tomorrow, though? Because we're short staffed. And it's like, dude, I just told you I'm depressed. I can't get out of bed. And you want me to come to, like, I don't know how I'm going to feel tomorrow. Like, and we got to make sure that mental health is equal to medical conditions. Because, autism, for example, that is a medical condition, but it's also a mental health disorder. But both parties have to work together to help the warrior get through whatever obstacles that they're going through. I think that same needs to happen with anxiety, depression, PTSD, schizophrenia, borderline personality disorder, whatever you say. We need to give that same respect per se and say, hey, you're having a mental health, flare up per se. All right, let us know when you feel better and return to work.
10-4, got it. What about you, Lady DMC?
I completely agree. I think this new generation is the one that's finally saying, you know what? This just means being human. This doesn't mean being crazy. This means that I feel, I have emotions, I'm alive. And why should I have to keep quiet about something that should be completely normal? I mean, I remember DesiGirl saying this on a couple of our episodes as well. Like, why are we not ashamed to say if we have diabetes or if we have a thyroid condition, things like that. But why do we have to have that shame of, oh, I'm anxious or I suffer from depression or I'm bipolar or things like that, And I think this generation is the one that's finally opening up their eyes and saying, we got to band together and normalize this, stick together and say, this is just part of the human condition. It's just as normal as physical health, because mental health is physical health. So our brains are part of our body. So let's
Yes,
speak
yes.
about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
See, with me, like my opinion is not that different from you guys, right? Like, but for me, I don't know, it's because I grew up in a different environment rather than here in America in the States. Um, like for me is like one thing growing up as a boy, as a teenager, as an adult now, as a man, as a father, one thing that I've learned throughout the years is that we need to be able to be in touch with our emotions, and as you know, and the male community, that's something that we tend to push other males to not not to ignore feelings, right? So that, but it doesn't help us when we finally settle down and now it's time to raise kids and be married. being emotion and be able to understand, and is one of the key factors to being a good parent and a good husband. And when I sit and have these deep conversations with people, I tell them all the time, like, you shouldn't ignore your feelings, but you shouldn't also let them control you. Like, we live in a society nowadays that it's a gray area. Back then it used to be white and black, straight to the point, very strict, narrow line. Now we live in this gray area that we really don't know what's right or wrong. And some people that do need the help, like, the warriors you guys speak to every week and try to inspire, right? Those people need help. But then you have other people that just using it as an excuse to get by because they don't want to do something. They don't want to get something done. And that's where it creates that gray line, because there's really people that need help, but are not getting the help because that gray line, it's right there. You can't define what is what nowadays.
Oh no, I 100% agree. I think mental health is either a jail-free card, or it's something that it's a no-no per se. Working in the psychiatric unit, I've met with patients who have been deemed not competent to stand trial. Now, are they really not able to stand trial? I don't know. I wasn't there. But, I help them with whatever diagnosis they may have, and we get through it. But oftentimes, I think is now mental health the new, getaway card.
Free card, yeah.
Right. Like, is that our new excuse? Oh, I have depression day. Because I've talked to a lot of people when I was in grad school who were like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so severely depressed. I hear voices and this and that. And I'm like, wait, you have like 6 different diagnoses there. So we're like, what is going on with you?
Yes.
And, but then it turns into, are you using this to get away? Like, I'm not trying to downplay it, but I know a lot of people who claim to have mental illnesses to get disability and other, benefits, and really they don't have it. So has mental become a joke now too?
Yes, I agree. Like, I know people close to me that, they say they can't sleep at night, but then go to sleep at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning and sleep all day. Or, I'm depressed, but what they really knew is to get a job and get the fuck out and go do something in life. Like, it's that's me, because I'm a hard ass. I come for a very difficult background. So I when it comes to, I try to be sensitive, but it's difficult for me sometimes, because when I see bullshit, it's bullshit, and I could smell it,
Oh
But
no, I mean, in the clinical we call that malingering. We have a term for it now. Malingering. And
I'm gonna use that to insult so many people. I'm sorry.
No, use it.
Oh, you're such a malingering.
You're a malingerer. You're a malingerer.
Malinger. Got it.
But I mean, but again, like, I don't discount people. I've met with people who I'm like, okay, like, you're dealing with insomnia, like, what's going on? And you can, like, Lady DMC, you can say it's like, I therapeutize everybody. She'll be like, stop telling people things, like, stop asking all these questions, like, why are you trying to fix them? Like, but it's like, I want to understand, why do you feel like you need to lie about having an illness? Like, let's talk about that. Why do we want to be a malingerer? Like,
let's go deep in. Let's go deep in.
Let's talk about it. Let's go under the sea and talk about this. And it's like, but then you genuinely hear people's story, like, hey, I have social, I'm scared because if I go to work, X, Y, and Z is gonna happen. Okay, well, let's talk about those fears. Like, you can still work. You don't need disability for that. Like, you can work. We'll figure it out. Like, I can help you. Like, I empower people.
There you go.
I'm like, I'm empowering you here. Lady DMC, I know you have something to say about this.
What's your thoughts?
I just think it's really unfortunate because it brings that sense of heightened awareness for the people who are probably outside the warrior world. So I feel like for those of us that are actually suffering from from a mental illness or mental illnesses, in my case, like anxiety and depression, it's just going to make people like not believe you, and it's going to make them scan you. Okay, so is this person really faking it? Is it true? Can I see some medical proof here? Have you taken medications? Like, let me see that you're not malingering with me, you know. But it's unfortunate that this new side of healthcare, which is mental health, is actually being treated in that sense. As a warrior, I think that's unfair to us.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I think it discounts those of us that are really going through something. You know, kind of going back to what I had shared early in the episode, I remember when it, you know, coworkers and friends and family, they were like, well, what's the big deal? Like, just you get over it. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, just get over it, like move on with my day and just be, all right, that didn't happen. So I feel like there's this hard shell mentality too out there. Kind of what you were talking about, like gotta toughen up and like have thick skin, but also, you know, not everyone has thick skin, and sometimes some things can even surpass that thick skin that we got. And telling someone to just get over it, or, you know, I don't understand why this is so detrimental to you or traumatic to you. I mean, you're discounting someone's trauma.
Yes. I've learned throughout the years that, you know, not everybody's like me. And you know, for the people that I've made it difficult, I've always tried to reach out and apologize. You know, something that as you know, you get older and you become wiser, you know, not everybody's it's like you, and that's okay. That's okay. You can only, you know, like me, you know, I suffer a lot of PSD. You know, I suffer with a lot of anger issues, you know, due to my upbringing, and you know, I'm very. It's difficult for me to be sociable. Like the most I feel comfortable is when I'm alone. You know, if I have to go and be sociable and be in a group, I you know, I feel very uncomfortable. I feel like I'm getting my sixth sense, and something's about to happen, and I need to walk away, you know. Or I just you know, have a hard time of mingling, and I just don't care, and I just go by myself because it feels so safe for me, you know. That's one of the reasons I started this podcast, so I can branch out, network, meet new people, get out my comfort zone, you know, especially now that, you know, I have an autistic son. You know, maybe things will be okay when he grows up. Maybe it won't. But you know, I have to try to keep pushing him because he, you know, he has to maintain. And if he sees dad being unsociable and being a hermit and not be able to do things, you know, he's gonna feel like he's not gonna be able to do it. So I need to do my best to set the best example for him. So it's a lot of overcoming for me.
Oh no, I mean, and being a parent of a child with autism is difficult. Like, I don't know where the severity is for your son, but you know, as a parent, there's that trauma, right? The caregiver fatigue, the dealing, you know, I'm sure there's going to be days where your son may be having his meltdowns and you're like, dude, just keep it together today. Like, it's just not the day, like, you know, and you're not able to do that. You can't tell him, keep it together. Like, you know, I had a bad day today, so I just need you to keep your life together today. You just go, all right, like, I'm going to put my, you know, BS on the side, and what's going on? What can I do to help you feel better today? And here at SWC, like, that's our goal. We want to not just educate our warriors, but those that take care of them.
For me, for my son, is like my main concern. It's that people give up on him. Like a lot of people growing up gave up on me. You know, I now that I'm grown and I've educated myself, I'm not that far from autistic spectrum. So I've learned a lot. And, you know, seeing having the experience with my son made me like realize a lot of stuff of my upbringing. And a lot of people gave up on me. There was nobody trying to talk to me, be patient. Like I grew up, they were passing me like we were playing hot potato, you know? So my biggest fear is that like I had a bad experience with speech, right? Speech for kids with autism. They try to like make them irritated. They irritate them so that they can be explosive and try to say something. But like for certain kids and with autism, it's difficult because they're already frustrated. They can't. Someone can't speak. Somebody can't get the thoughts out there. So they get frustrated, and a normal tantrum that's like a 1 will go escalate to a 5. So so I would walk in to this therapist, and 20 minutes in, she's already giving up my son. And here's me, like I'm involved. I'm heavily involved. Like, all right, you need him to do this, and I'm talking to him, or I'm like, here, Poppy, we're gonna do this, and we do this, and as much annoyed I can be, but I'm not gonna give up on my son. I'm not gonna let that happen to me. I continue going through this with this therapist until it's finished, because I wanted to show that you shouldn't give up, and show the government who's paying for this service. It's not that we're being lazy parents, because we also, if we don't bring them to this, we'll get classified. And for me, I refuse it. I bust my ass too much.
And I mean, from the clinical standpoint, I have a really good friend whose son has autism as well, and the parents are in total denial. The kid's 6 or 7 years old now. Total denial.
Have you ever seen the show Atypical on Netflix?
I have.
Oh my God. That show has changed my life. And then like you mentioning what you just mentioned, like the therapist, right? Her brother, they came to accept he was autistic at 16 years old.
Yeah. No, he's 6 years old. So they found out he was so when I first saw this kid's picture, I'm like, oh, he got autism.
Like
they didn't believe me. Huh?
Straight off the bat.
Straight off. I mean, you can tell from a baby, from like training wise. So when they did find out from the school, they, denied it. No, there's nothing wrong with my kid. Like, they're just being racist. Like, every excuse in the book on why this child was not getting his needs met. And, now that they are sort of accepting of it, and they're doing ABA therapy, the child's nonverbal right now. And you can see the child regressing, like things he knew 6 months ago because of the pandemic. It goes back to the pandemic because ABA therapy was not offered here in California. I don't know if you have it back where you're living, if they were offering during the pandemic.
We just got it. We literally 2 weeks, maybe 3. We just got it literally.
Yeah. So, ABA therapy was not offered because they come into your home. You go to the office, you do play therapy, you do all this stuff. And they're like, oh, sorry, we're not doing that. And this child, all the things he had learned, he forgot it. He even forgot how to go to the bathroom. Like, he was not potty trained. He started peeing himself in his pants. And, as therapists, I think it takes a very special kind of therapist to work with children with developmental disorders. I personally cannot do it. I just get on my last nerve. Like, I'm like, all right, we're done. I'm not dealing with you. And I think your therapist might be dealing with the same. That may just not be their sector. You have to be a very, very patient person. I think Lady DMC would make a really good therapist in developmental. He has a lot of patience, like a lot. So I think she would do really well in that. She'd thrive. If you want to change your career.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, I definitely think that there's people try to label just clinicians as, all in one group, but I definitely think, as DesiGirl said, to be able to work with children who have those special types of needs, it takes even someone with a lot of patience to be a parent. Not all parents are loving and caring and kind when their child needs help just on the day-to-day. So imagine now adding special needs on top of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot in this pandemic. I know there's a lot of parents that appreciate more the teachers.
Oh yeah.
Because think about it,
a lot of them were saying in post.
Yeah,
I was gonna say a lot of parents were posting on social media like teachers are my heroes, and oh my gosh,
yes,
how do you guys do this? I'm doing this with one or two. You guys do this with 20 or 30 a day.
yeah. Like imagine like in present time, you have a baby and uh I want to say like 6 months in already you're giving them to like a daycare because they got to go work, and daycare becomes pre-K, pre-K becomes kindergarten becomes
Mhm.
first, second grade. Now, like, have you got to ask yourself, have you ever really had a relationship with your kid? Because from the point you bring him to life, he's been taking somebody else been taking care of him, but really somebody has been raising him. So now a
Mm.
pandemic hits, like you have a 16-year-old at your house. Yeah, you really have time with him besides the weekend, and if that, now you're getting to know him.
Oh yeah, I mean, on
And
Facebook, I
not only
saw
on
some.
top of that,
Go ahead, please.
I was gonna say not only on top of that, but also adding the fact that many parents are not in the educational sector. So having to add on being the
Yes,
educator during the pandemic, along with being the parent, there comes another challenge.
yes, yes, yes,
And the parents that don't speak English, there were a lot of parents who don't speak English. Their kid is the one that speaks English. I can't imagine what they were going through during the pandemic. Like, how do you get your kid to do their homework, and how can you? Okay, let me help you with your math homework or your social studies homework when they themselves don't understand. So
yeah,
I feel like the pandemic just caused a lot of havoc, and I was, I follow a few of like the educational groups, and I see teachers saying like, "Hey, I think this child should be held back." I think it'll be
yes,
better for them to have an in-person experience in second grade. And these parents are like, no, 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 they need to go to third grade. That's it. They did it. But your kid didn't learn anything because of the
yes,
language barrier. A teacher wasn't available, or some teachers only had like 20 minutes with each student per day. Like in 20 minutes, how are you supposed to help a kid that's struggling? I know if I was in elementary at the time, I probably wouldn't have learned anything because,
yes.
again, I'm a very distracted learner. My anxiety would have been through the roof, and I'd be like, well, I don't know what we did this whole year, but I guess we're moving on now. Like,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. What do you think? Like, there's a lot of like through the pandemic was a lot of virtual learning. Do you think that helped? Like, I have small cousins that their parents are posting pictures of them just falling asleep in front of the screen. Like,
I think it like older kids, like high school and college, I think it was socially it was bad, but I think they did fine because again, they can be held accountable. But K through 8, I don't think so. Especially K through 5, I think they really missed out on very important milestones that we'll see the effects later in life.
yes, yes. I was talking not too long ago with a friend of mine. Like this, I told him like this pandemic, you got to invest in your kids. If you could get
Mm-hmm.
a tutor or something, invest in your kids because 10, I want to say 5, 10 years down the road, it's gonna show the gap we all went through, believe it or not.
Yeah. But I also think because there were a lot of scammer tutors out there, I had seen like, oh, I can tutor
Yes.
this. And then like these poor parents paid hundreds of dollars to get their kid tutored, and their kid didn't learn anything because either the tutor had no idea what was going on, or, they're part of Lady DMC, my generation, where we kind of just learned how to go through loopholes, figure it out, and be like, oh, okay, that's how we got the answers. I guess it worked. But I just think this pandemic has impacted every age group, but the younger generation, we're gonna see the huge impact in, and I don't know how we're gonna deal with it, quite honestly.
What about you, Lady DMC?
Uh, I think that parents were a little concerned in terms of the learning. I think everybody freaked out because the children were going to get held back. But honestly, I don't think virtual learning was probably the best thing. With all the factors that you guys have listed in terms of the language barrier, I work in a city where there's a lot of immigrant families, where there's a lot of low income families. And the city had to say, you know what, we're going to have to go on some funding here in terms of all our school students who don't have a computer, don't have a laptop, don't have that type of technology to even log in and attend virtual school. You know, there's so many things that were preventing kids from getting the 100% attention, education, and understanding that they needed.
Yes.
Teachers not being able to spend enough time individually. I know Verizon over here had to say, you know what, we're gonna give you guys some months, maybe even a year for free, just so your students can go to school. We'll give you Wi-Fi, you know, put up new towers and things like that. I don't know if it was the most effective way of receiving an education. I think people were just trying to go ahead and get their kids, you know, busy doing something, trying to keep that normal, so to speak. But I mean, it's the best we could do as humans. We try to adapt, and it's the only way we could think to do it. Was to do it like we're doing right now with our meetings, and turn school into that as well. So, but I don't think it was 100% effective, if I'm honest.
I mean, they had therapy virtually, and you know, I'm not licensed yet, but I have friends who are licensed who went into private practice and they did virtual therapy, and they were like, it was a shit show, because they were like, patients, especially in crisis, like if a patient sits here in front of me and says, hey, I'm going to go kill myself, I have a knife right here in front of me, I'm going to do it. Well, I don't know where you are. You can tell me you're at Disneyland right now, but you could be, you know, in Nevada for all I know. Like, I don't know where you are. And how am I supposed to deal with a crisis? Like, I can't keep a patient online, right? If they're physically in front of me, I can, you know, call someone, hey, restrain the patient. Hey, call 911 right now. Or, hey, I'm going to sit with you while the PAC team comes right now. Like, there was so much that wasn't thought out. And I'm like, so how in the world are we dealing with crises now? Because someone could tell me on the phone, on virtual, hey, I'm going to go kill someone. Okay, well, what am I supposed to do now? Like, I don't know where you are. You told me you're here, but you're not here. So I feel like this pandemic showed us that we're not prepared for the technology world. I think we have a lot to figure out, school-wise, therapy-wise. And I know there's like BetterHelp, and I can't think of other ones, but I know they do a really good job. Like, if it's a patient's in crisis, like they have some form of like system, but still it's not a perfect system. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, it's something you live and you learn, and when you first, it's like the best example I can give is like, if you've never started something, right? Like, but you want it to be perfect. How do you know it's going to be perfect if you never started? So I think like that happened a lot in the pandemic, especially, you know, with the government we had leading us, wasn't taking things seriously, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And what happens when, when we trust in people that's supposed to guide us, and we're witnessing they're not guiding us, you know, everything becomes a shit show, you know, people start using, like, you know, at one point there was no toilet paper. There's no need why you don't, you know, there shouldn't be no toilet paper. It's because you got now people like using more than what they have to, because everything has to be disinfected. So something that was last you a month now lasts you 3 days, because everything's so accessible. I mean, you're doing it more than you need to.
Oh yeah, like gloves. I mean, before the pandemic, I used to buy gloves for other reasons, and I'm like, damn, there were no gloves. I just went to Target the other day. There's no gloves still. I'm like, what are we using gloves for now? I thought COVID is over.
Yeah.
So, you know, I feel like COVID really shined a light. Like, what I like to say is like, oh, so we tried and we failed. So now what are we going to do to fix it? And I don't think we have a plan to fix it.
No, they're just trying to open everything. They're just trying to open everything, and yes, hope, you know, cross the fingers, hope everything's okay.
Well, so Florida was like one of the first states to open everything.
Florida?
Like, yeah.
Well, Florida is a different. First of all, Florida, the what do you call that place? The season control.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving all that information. They're giving it to the White House. That's what the White House is getting the information. My episode 22 have somebody that works there, and it's behind the scenes that confirmed it. So Florida, it's crazy. Special people come from Florida. So
Oh my God.
no, fuck that. I'm sorry, I curse, but Florida's crazy. I've seen some shit.
I mean, because
So
I remember when, like, was it spring? It was spring break. Yeah, spring break this year. They
yeah,
had spring break, and I was like, oh, I guess
no,
we're having spring break.
Everybody was going to the beach. Like once like they shut down New York, they shut down New Jersey. I think they shut down LA. Florida was basically one of the last states, I think, to shut down. And although they shut it down, they were still going to the beach. They was going to a amusement park. Everything was still going. Like Key West and Florida was popping,
Oh
literally.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So
That's funny.
yeah,
Special kind of people come from Florida.
yes, some crazy shit that happens on there. Yes, yes. That's all I gotta say with that. So I know.
I'm sorry, I was gonna say I just think this pandemic, as DesiGirl said, really shone a light on us and just showed us that as humanity, we think we know it all because we have all these educated scientists and these high class people that are supposed to be looking out for us. But when life wants to hit, it's gonna hit us hard, and we don't always have the answers. Exhibits A and B, COVID and Delta. Who knows what other variant is gonna come along to spin our lives around, or it may not be in our lifetime, but maybe in our great grandkids or great great grandkids' lifetime. Maybe, God willing, no. But something like this happens with new consequences, new symptoms, new things, and they're gonna have to figure out this crap again.
Listen, when it's time to clock out and everything is said and is done, it doesn't matter how many sneakers you have for those sneaker fanatics. Doesn't matter how much money, cars, anything luxurious, and how people what's gonna matter at the end is the amount of kindness you were able to give to somebody just for being you. And this pandemic, it clearly showed it doesn't matter if you have money, if you're famous, if you have that blue check mark, you're still a regular person, and money can't save you.
100%.
Exactly.
So I know
Love
you
that.
guys have to leave. So I want to talk about, you guys just did a partnership with some broadcasting.
Yeah,
Venture Broadcasting.
There you go,
Yeah.
Adventure Broadcasting.
Yeah, so we just partnered with them, I want to say last week, Lady DMC.
Congrats.
Last week, yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So we're super excited. Today was our first episode where we're dropping with them.
Nice.
And so our episode, I think it already dropped. Yes, it dropped 6 months ago.
Yep.
We are talking about athletes and mental health and chatting about, like, if like Simone, for example, when she said, hey, I'm going through some mental health issues, can't do my job, and the public lost their mind. But let's say you and I call out, hey, you can't come in today. Nobody's going to care. Like, all right, cool. See you tomorrow. Like,
Yes.
and so we talk about that. And we also talk about employers, what I like to call the salty culture and how we need to cancel it. That is our movement here at SLEC, to cancel the salty culture.
So you guys got joint partners with this company, and moving forward, what's any plans, ideas? What can we wait from the Silent Warriors?
So our blog, so we've been revamping our blog since like May, like at the beginning of this year. It's been a long revamp. But so our blog will drop August 31st at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Nice.
And so we're gonna have our weekly blog posts or daily blog posts. We're gonna have more resources, more opportunities. Like we have a sponsorship program, so if businesses want to sponsor us, we're gonna be listing all of our guests. Yours will be on there as well.
The 26th, I'll be there. Stay tuned.
The 31st, August 31st.
31st?
31st.
One of those dates. Stay tuned.
Yes. So we're gonna be posting all of our guest appearances, all of our podcast platforms. What else do we have on there? I want to say
Are YouTube as well?
YouTube. Yeah.
You guys coming over your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so it's still audio right now. We have, like you said, this is our first time showing our faces on some form of podcasting. but we're hoping to do that too eventually once the revamp's over. That's our big, stressor right now here is our revamp, because we've had just so much going on that we didn't plan that was going to happen.
Yes. Well, I wish you guys best success. You guys are killing it, and once you guys do the video, you're still gonna kill it. So, just take that dirt off your shoulders. You guys are gonna be okay. You're doing great. Before we leave, just tell the people where they can find you, listen to you, find you, put all your plugins.
Well, we're on all the social media platforms. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Follow us, Silent Warrior Chronicles. And for our podcast, we're on all the major platforms. We're on Google Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts as well, of course. As I said, you're going to find us on YouTube, on Venture. Those are two other platforms that you're going to be able to listen to our podcast on. And yeah, my girl DesiGirl here does an amazing job of putting up daily inspirational quotes on her social media.
She's awesome at that. Yes,
she's amazing. She will keep you posted when our new episodes are out, telling you what our episodes are about. We give you little teasers on Monday and then go ahead and announce officially on Tuesday. So just hit us up. We'll see you there and be a part of the Silent Warrior Chronicle family. We want more warriors out there.
There you go. If they wanted to get in contact with you, to join you on your show or anything like that, how would they reach you? Do they go on your link tree and just send you a message?
Yeah, so our link tree has our email. Another way is podcast.swc@outlook. So that's another way to get a hold of us for podcast specifically. But if you want to give us feedback or anything, then it's reachout.swc@outlook.com, which is on our link tree.
Well, there you go, guys. Go hit them up. Go follow them. Thank you for joining me today. I've had a pleasure. I hope it was fun. It was fun for me. It's an honor to meet you both. You guys are doing great things. Just keep it up. Keep it up. Sky's the limit, and you're saving lives. Like I said, thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having us, and we're excited. We're actually going to have you on our platform.
Yes, I can't wait.
Warrior Corners. So yes. We're excited to have you on, us being the host and you being our guest.
Well, I can't wait. I honestly can't wait. So thank you for joining me. I'm out, guys. Have a good night.